YouTube, welcome to Fred's Full Throttle. Today's video is all about the C8 Z06. October 3rd arrived, and with that, the drop of the review embargo. Immediately, the internet was overrun with pictures, information, impressions, and all manner of details about the car. Today I'm going to share my first impressions of the reviews that I've watched, share some of the good, some of the bad, and a few of the things which I learned which I didn't know before. So buckle in and let's get right into it. I'd like to diverge for a moment though. It's been almost 2 weeks since I was back here in the garage recording. Rachel and I had a fantastic vacation exploring Utah. We loved Antelope Island, the Valley of Fire, Capitol Reef, Bryce Canyon, and of course Zion National Park. Now 2 interesting car-related things happened on our trip. First, while we were staying in a cabin out in Torrey, Utah, we spent an evening out by the fire pit at the place we were staying. 2 nice couples came over and we ended up starting to talk. Well, it turned out that between the 4 of them, they owned 3 Corvettes, all C7s. Then 2 of those were Grand Sports, the same car that I have. Before we knew it, we realized that we had a mutual connection with John at Mid-Engine Corvette Forum, and then we spent the next hour or so talking about our travels, our adventures, and all the fun we've had in our cars. It was so neat to share a bond with the people you just met over a shared passion and interest. So I want to say a special hello to Faith and Jeff from Las Vegas, and Tess and Paul from Oregon. We both really enjoyed meeting you and sharing some time by the fire. The other really cool thing was that I got to see one of my YouTube heroes' cars. While we were in Zion, we realized we were just a couple miles from Hurricane, Utah. Some of you may know that the YouTube channel Matt's Off-Road Recovery is actually based in Hurricane. Matt runs a channel chronicling all of the different adventures he gets into as an off-road recovery specialist. We got to meet some of his team, and I got to snap a few pictures of the Morvere, which is his signature tow vehicle. Totally made my day. Lastly, if my voice sounds a little scratchy, it's because I'm recovering from some allergies from a plant called rubber rabbit brush, which grows everywhere out in Utah and really set off my allergies. But enough of all that, let's get into the meat of this video, the Z06. One of the first things that you'll notice is that there are tons of reviews out there already. Road and Track, Car and Driver, both have headline pages and articles dedicated to the car and their experiences with it. Additionally, there are at least 20 or so YouTubers who have posted videos reviewing the car, including Savage Geese, Amelia Hartford, The Straight Pipes, and many others. This video is the first of several where I'm going to start breaking down my observations about what we're hearing about the car. There is a lot to cover, especially as some of the videos are approaching an hour long, and many more are 20 minutes plus. It's going to take some time to sift through everything, so this video is just the first of several. Now, where to start? Well, on October 3rd, Corvette Blogger made a really helpful post that shared all the reviews that they could find. Over time, it's been updated to include even more as they came online. However, even at a glance, there's 17 reviews for the C8 Z06 on there, with many more if you just do a little Googling. So where do you start? Having the foresight that there would be plenty of time to digest all this information, I went in a specific order. I wanted to start with a really detailed overview of the car and as much information and technical info as I could learn, and then build out to the more fun videos where people focus more on the feel and the emotion than just the technical information. This means there was really only one place to start: Savage Geese. Clocking in at 58 minutes and 34 seconds, Savage Geese's video is a real masterpiece. Something to pour a drink and sit down on your couch and really dive into. I've already watched it twice because there's so much detail there, and I'm sure I didn't catch everything yet. I will link to his video in the description below, as well as a few of the others that I've already watched. What's that you say? That makes it sound like I haven't watched all the impressions yet. And that's true, I haven't. I've started with the channels I know and follow the most, and will work my way into the others. Given the IV drip of information that GM's put out in the past, I don't see any value in overdosing on info right now while there's a lot available. Instead, I'm going to pace myself a bit so I can think, process, and then react. Today I'm going to cover the pros from what I've seen so far, the cons, some overall impressions, and what's next. So let's start with the pros. From the Straight Pipes, some of their pros are wet weather traction actually seems quite good. I didn't really expect this. Given the wide tires, minimal tread, and abundance of power, the Z06 certainly doesn't seem like it would be well suited to spirited, wet driving. Except that it apparently is. Using launch control in the rain and doing some pretty spirited driving in the rain, it turns out that the Z is surprisingly sure-footed in the wet. This observation channels something that Taj said earlier in the GM media cycle, that the balance of the mid-engine platform frequently makes the car feel like it's all-wheel drive. This wasn't just something that Jacob and Yuri observed either. Multiple other videos share similar opinions, having all participated in the rainy street driving in the Pittsburgh press event. Also, the ride in the Z06 was good on road. Stiff, but fine. This hopefully doesn't come as much of a surprise with how much more stiff GM says the car is over the Stingray, but it's good to hear that even in Z07 trim, the car is livable for longer drives. Obviously, individual tolerances will vary, of course, but the overall statement is that this car is still a Corvette, which is known for its comfort on long rides. That remains true with the Z06. Up next, if you do the engine build at the factory, you can get a plaque with your name on it on a second plaque. As we're all likely familiar, the LT6s will all bear the names of the master builder that builds the engine in our cars. However, one thing I didn't know is that if you decide to do the build your own engine experience, where you help assemble the engine through part of the process, you end up getting a second plaque with your name on it. They pointed out that this is intended for display on a shelf or something, but is capable of being swapped out for the one that's actually in the car. Meaning that you could actually drive around with a tongue-in-cheek one-of-one car with an engine, at least in part, built by yourself. I think that's pretty cool. From Amelia Hartford, there really was just one pro, but it's a pretty big one, and that's the straight line performance of the car. Chevy has been quoting a 0 to 60 time of 2.6 seconds and a quarter mile time of 10.6 seconds. They state that this can be done on an unprepped surface. Never one to back down from a challenge, Amelia Hartford's Z06 video this week differed from many of the others. Rather than repeat all the same stats that everyone else is saying and talk about the balance and the poise and the engine sound, she decided to take a different approach, and I applaud that. She said, I want to see if I can beat Chevy's own benchmarks. So she took her press car to a drag strip and did just that. Knowing that the numbers they arrived at were averages from 10 launches of the car on an unprepped surface, she was pretty confident that there was more there than Chevy initially claimed, and more there was. After some playing with some settings, tire pressure, and how best to launch the car, she set an absolutely blazing time. She knocked off a 10:51, and perhaps more impressively, she clocked a 0 to 60 time of 2.2 seconds. It's funny, earlier today on one of my other Z06 videos, where I compared the Z to several other supercars, a commenter took glee in pointing out that the real-world 0 to 60 times of the 720S, F8, and others were faster than the manufacturer's stated times that I'd compared the Z06 against. However, by that metric, this 2.2 seconds makes the Z06 look even better than the initially stated times. Seriously, 2.2 seconds, that's hypercar territory. I mean, a Bugatti Chiron does it in 2.3 seconds, and that's a car with all-wheel drive and 1,500 horsepower. A couple of other interesting things that she mentioned is that there is a quick exit mode that can be activated with the paddles just before you launch the car. Also, that launch control in the Z06 is configurable for both tire slip and what RPM the car is going to hold. I think that's going to be fun to play around with to figure out whatever your best combination is. And from Savage Geese, they were very measured in what they said, but it was perhaps the best compliments you could get for a car. They stated that the Z07 version of the car is like driving a 992 GT3. So quick to react, so quick to turn in. They said that it drives better than most other supercars and makes most of them irrelevant. The Z06 is faster, handles better, stops better, and costs significantly less. After all, there's a 1 in front of the 6-digit price, not a 2 or a 3 or a 4. Very high praise indeed. Now, of course, there are some cons, as no car is perfect. The straight pipes mentioned that it's a little buzzy at high RPM, like if you're going down the highway a few gears too low. Savage Geese had a bit more to say, including that there's piped-in audio in the upper end of the RPM range to eliminate undesirable harmonic frequencies. They said that the transmission tuning doesn't feel as sharp as the PDK or the new GT500, and that you can occasionally get a slow downshift or, once in a while, an ignored downshift, and you'll need to hit the paddles again. And lastly, they said that the paddles lacked a strong physical detent, a click, a more mechanical feel, which distances you just a little bit more from the experience. But happily, both were very quick to point out that these are very minor in the overall scheme, and that this car is an absolute triumph of an achievement by GM. Lastly, in the cons, I'm going to put people, specifically C7 Z06 owners, that are bitter about the new car. In the last few days, I've seen social media lit up with C7 Z06 owners whining about the car not being good at drag racing or not living up to their expectations. It is absolutely ridiculous that these people seem to think that their fun in their cars is diminished by the new car, or that bashing a track car for not being good at drag racing, which, by the way, is complete tomfoolery. This is a legitimate 10-second car. Oh, and by the way, it can corner better than most other cars out there. Not just some, but most. People are ridiculous, and honestly, just ignore all these trolls. So overall impressions though, what does this all mean? Well, the early consensus is that the Z06 is a complete and utter home run. It managed to hit that incredibly high target that GM had set for the car. To be fast, to be fun, engaging, have charisma and character, and still offer you a little bit of everything. You want comfort on a long trip? Check. You want to carry luggage or golf bags? Check. How about taking the roof off in any model? Check. World-beating supercar performance. We've got that too. GM broke the mold with this car. Universally, every review I've seen has talked about this being a true supercar, one which there is no debate about. Reviewers say that there is a lot to learn from this car, and the car won't be holding anyone back. It's more capable than all but the best drivers. It lives up to the hype and then some. I said a few weeks ago that the onus was really on Chevy to bring it with the Z06, to back up that hype, to live up to the seemingly too high expectations. They needed to deliver on those promises for me to consider giving up my cherished C7 Grand Sport, to prove that this car is worth moving up to. And somehow, through perseverance, dedication, engineering, testing, long hours, and passion, it sounds like they did it. What a wonderful car. I am so excited to see this story unfold and can't wait to eventually have my number called and get one for myself. So what's next? Where do we go from here? Well, for one, I mentioned that I've only watched and read a handful of reviews. I'm going to be catching up on all the others in the coming weeks, and it's an opportunity to watch some YouTubers I don't normally follow. A chance to see things from some new perspectives and to get a more filled out vision of the car. Then it's time to do some reevaluation and reanalysis. With all the information coming at us, it's easy to get lost in the new info, the facts, and not catch some of the little details. I'll be sifting through all of that and continuing to dissect the car. With a little luck, I may even end up with an opportunity for a press demo car. I'm hoping to call in a few favors to try to make that happen. Hint, hint, GM. So stick around, it's gonna get interesting. So thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, Fred out!